Today's lesson is Andalusia. Discover the heart and soul of southern Spain. Hi, I'm Kiki.
And I'm Mike.
All right, so Mike, today we are going to travel.
We are? I don't even have my passport. I'm so excited. Where are we going?
We are going to southern Spain.
I'm so happy. I've never been there, but I've always wanted to go.
And this part of Spain is really unique. Just the name itself is beautiful. Andalusia.
Andalusia. I think I've also heard maybe British people say Andalusia or Andalusia or something like that. So Andalusia. So yes, this is... You said southern Spain.
Right.
Okay, that part that's really close to northern Africa, really close to Morocco, way down there.
Yeah, and we're going to find out a little bit more about this closeness. But discovering the heart and soul, okay? So what does it mean when we're discover the heart and soul of something?
That's kind of getting beyond, the obvious typical tourist destinations and really getting to where the local people go, finding out about the culture of the place and the history of the place, and not just the typical places you'll see on the postcards from that region. We're digging a little bit deeper into the heart of Andalusia, the culture of Andalusia, and what kind of makes these people unique and makes this region unique in Spain, which of course is a country of kind of regions, right? We talk about the Basque region and Catalonia and places like that. So let's find out more about Andalusia as we read the first part of the article. Andalusia. Discover the heart and soul of southern Spain. Andalusia is a picturesque region located on Spain's southern coast. With unmissable architecture set in attractive landscapes, as well as a diverse mix of festivals and foods, it truly has something for everyone.
大家好，第一部分我们来看形容词 picturesque， 它的意思是风景如画的，或是有自然美景的。例如 The town sits on the edge of a picturesque lake that has very clean water. 该镇坐落在风景如画的湖泊边，湖水非常干净。接着看到 landscape， 它是名词，指的是陆地上的风景、自然景色。举例来说 The travelers were impressed by the beauty of the landscape. 游客都被这里的美丽景色所打动。或者The photographer has taken amazing photos of landscapes around the world. 那位摄影师拍摄了世界各地令人惊叹的风景照。
Okay, so let's talk about the first part of our article today. Andalusia is a picturesque region located on Spain's southern coast. So what does it mean when it's on the coast? It's usually surrounded by the water, you're going against the ocean, and it's really picturesque. So when something is picturesque, it's really beautiful. When you think about it, it just looks like it belongs in a painting, or the view is just beautiful. So usually when something is picturesque, you're looking at the landscape of this area or this region. So it's very picturesque.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a painting you would see in an art gallery, but there it is. Oh my gosh, it's real. It's right in front of me. It is so gorgeous. It says it has with unmissable architecture set in attractive landscapes, as well as a diverse mix of festivals and foods. It truly has something for everyone. I'm sold. Okay, so unmissable architecture, things you don't want to miss are unmissable. The night markets of Taipei or Taiwan are unmissable for tourists. You got to go to a night market at least once, right? It would be silly not to. Here it's the architecture that is unmissable. Architecture is the design, style, shape, and look of buildings. So we're not talking about how the building is made with concrete and steel or wood. We're talking about the decorative part, the shape of it. The architecture of European churches over centuries changes a lot, right? A lot of the architecture is very beautiful. Sometimes it's very ornate, it's very fancy. Other times it's very simple and stark and basic. But the shapes of these buildings kind of tell you a lot about the culture. Often you can see a building and just by the architecture you get a good idea of where that building is from. So if you're interested in the design and looks of buildings, Andalusia will not let you down. And this is all set in attractive landscapes. Both of these these terms kind of speak to how picturesque the region is. If something's attractive, it's pretty, it's beautiful. And the landscape is, well, kind of the shape of the land as well. So we're talking about mountains and valleys and forests and a beautiful little lake down there. And oh, look, there's a mountain in the distance with snow on top. Oh, it's so gorgeous. I guess if you're looking for the most picturesque landscapes in Taiwan, you might either go to the Central Mountains, right? Go up to Alishan and look at all the beautiful mountains that surround you, or also the east coast of Taiwan, down by between sort of Hualien and Taidong with those cliffs down the coast region, the cliffs and the water and the beaches down there, that kind of thing. So beautiful geographic formations, that kind of thing is what we're talking about when we speak of landscapes, as well as a diverse mix of festivals and foods. This is more the culture that we would find there. It truly has something for everyone. Even the most grumpy person who doesn't want to have a good time on our Andalusian holiday will have to go, okay, it's not that bad. So it has something for everyone, no matter what you're into, no matter what your passion, hobby, or interest is, Andalusia will have something that will satisfy you. I'm going now.
Okay, well, let's find out more about what we can do in Andalusia. So let's listen to part 2.
Architecture nerds will fall in love with Andalusia thanks to the long, complicated history reflected in its many beautiful buildings. They include 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites that are considered must-visit destinations, the Alhambra and the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba. The former is a sprawling hilltop palace complex that's regarded as one of the greatest examples of Islamic architecture in the world. With elements consisting of magnificent palaces, courtyards, gardens, and more, it's such a vast site that visitors can spend hours admiring its beauty. Meanwhile, the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba, a mosque turned cathedral, is another example of Islamic architecture that tells the tale of Andalusia's long history of Muslim rule before Christians reconquered it.
第二部分我们来看单字 complicated， 它是形容词，意思是复杂的或是难懂的。例如 The mathematician was puzzling over the complicated equation. 那位数学家为这个复杂的方程式绞尽脑汁。或者 The toy's complicated assembly instructions were difficult to follow. 这个玩具复杂的组装说明很难让人照做。接下来介绍动词 sprawl， 它的意思是蔓延、不规则的延伸。在课文中 sprawling 为现在分词做形容词用，表示蔓延的。例如 The sprawling city is running out of room for its expanding population. 那个不断扩张的城市快要没有空间容纳越来越多的人口。再来是形容词 magnificent， 意思是宏伟壮丽的或是极好的。例如 While I was in Norway, I got to see the magnificent northern lights. 在挪威时，我见到了壮丽的极光。下一个是 courtyard 这个名词，表示庭院。例如 Danielle chose an apartment that had a nice view of a courtyard from its windows. Danielle 选择了一间从窗户可以看到庭院美景的公寓。
All right, let's talk about part 2, specifically the architecture, okay? So, architecture nerds will fall in love with Andalusia thanks to the long, complicated history reflected in its many beautiful buildings. Okay, so we talked about architecture being a reflection of a culture, but sometimes because of this reflection of the culture, we can see its history through these beautiful buildings, okay? But first, let's talk about this word nerds, okay? So nerds can sometimes be used in a negative way or positive way. In this case, it's kind of a positive thing. We're talking about architecture nerds. We're just referring to people that are really, really into or they really enjoy architecture. So the term nerds is really talking about someone that really likes to study or wants to learn about something, and they're really focused on a specific type of topic. But sometimes people use nerds to kind of insult people, to say they're kind of boring and they're kind of like bookworms and they just want to study all day. They're not cool or fun. But nowadays, in modern times, the term nerds is used less negatively and more of an encouraging way. So when we're talking about an architecture nerd or a book nerd, we're kind of just thinking, oh, this person, they like books or they like architecture. So if I want to ask a little bit more about this topic, I can ask my friend that is a book nerd.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So they will fall in love with Andalusia because of the architecture and its history. It has a long, complicated history reflected in its many buildings. Okay. So it has a long history that's very complicated. When something's very complicated, there's a lot going on. It's not very straightforward. There could be many, many different aspects of this history or many aspects of a situation that makes it really messy sometimes or hard to understand. So in this case, we're talking about its complicated history. And we mentioned earlier that it's almost close to North Africa.
Yeah.
So this might have something to do with its complicated history.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we will see it in its beautiful building.
We learn about those next. The many beautiful buildings include 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites that are considered must-visit destinations, the Alhambra and the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba. So those are 2 of the most famous buildings, and they also sort of tell the story of this complicated history in the architecture. So they are must-visit places you must visit or must go, must-visit destinations. A destination is a place that you are going to. It could be a famous place, that tourists might go to, like the Taipei 101 is a very popular destination for tourists to Taipei. But we can also say, I'm going home, I'm going to work, I'm going to the mall to buy a new pair of shoes. Where are you going? The place you say, that is your destination. And if you go to an airport, of course, they'll have that big board of all the airplanes either flying into or leaving the airport, and they will have the list of the destinations that they are either arriving from or going to. Places you are going to or coming from. The Alhambra, place I've heard of, but now I know where it is. It's just one of those cool, exotic names. The Alhambra. And the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba. It's a mosque and a cathedral. That also tells us something about the complicated history. Both of those are religious buildings, but for 2 different religions. So let's learn about those.
The former is a sprawling hilltop palace complex that's regarded as one of the greatest examples of Islamic architecture in the world. Okay, so the former, we're talking about the Alhambra, okay? We're talking about the first thing that was mentioned because we mentioned 2 buildings, so now we're talking about the first building. And it is a sprawling hilltop palace complex. Okay, so it's on top of a hill, so it's the hilltop. And when something is sprawling, it is spread out, okay, which suggests that this is a very big place. And since it's a palace complex, I'm pretty sure there are lots of different buildings that make up this Alhambra, okay?
Probably gardens around them as well.
Right. And maybe different living quarters, like different courts.
The Forbidden City in Beijing is a very sprawling palace.
That's right. And this place, the Alhambra, it's regarded as one of the greatest examples of Islamic architecture in the world. Now, this is really interesting because we're talking about Spain, right? So usually we're thinking about, Spanish culture, tapas, and things like that. But why is there an Islamic building? So Islamic or Islam, we're talking about people that have an Arabic background or they study the religion of Islam and they're Muslims. Okay, so usually you wouldn't think about people in Spain being Muslims. But because we're talking about Andalusia, which is very close to northern Africa, maybe that's why we're getting some elements of Islamic culture.
Exactly.
Right?
That's all about the complicated history of this part of Spain and of southern Europe. So there you go. Islamic architecture influenced by Islam, Muslim people, and that kind of thing, with elements consisting of magnificent palaces, courtyards, gardens, and more. It's such a vast site that visitors can spend hours admiring its beauty, maybe even a whole day at the Alhambra, and you still couldn't see everything that is there to offer. So they have elements consisting of magnificent palaces. Well, I would hope a palace is magnificent, because if something is magnificent, it's wonderful, it's amazing, it's very, very impressive. It might be also very luxurious. You know, they use gold and gems in the decorations inside some of the big rooms. So it's definitely not like, yeah, it's okay. It's a little plain and boring. No, it's wow, how much money did this cost? It's incredible how much time and how many artists worked on this place. It is absolutely spectacular. And they also have these palaces, which of course are large, luxurious buildings for princes and princesses, kings and queens to live in. They have courtyards, gardens, and more. This speaks to that whole sprawling nature of this entire area. Courtyards are kind of open spaces, open areas. We mentioned the Forbidden Palace. It has some really big courtyards. So you might have a building built around a large open space. And inside that space, maybe there's just pavement. Maybe there's, stones laid out on the ground. You can have parades there. You can have large gatherings of soldiers for the emperor to review, that kind of thing. And they'll probably have buildings around the outside. And in the inside, there's this open space for public events. And then you have beautiful open spaces, gardens with lush flower beds and trees. Maybe they've designed little ponds and little rivers or little streams inside for the rich and fabulous people to wander around in and write poetry about and all that kind of stuff. And more. And there's so much more. So as you can see, it's a vast site, a sprawling site, a vast site, very similar, very, very big and spread out over a large area. And visitors can spend hours admiring its beauty. Meanwhile, the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba, a mosque turned cathedral, so it was originally an Islamic religious building, a mosque, and then it became a cathedral. This is another example of Islamic architecture that tells the tale of Andalusia's long history of Muslim rule before Christians reconquered it. So yes, Muslim invaders from North Africa conquered this part of southern Spain and much of Spain between around 700 to around 1500. So there you go. So that explains part of the complicated history and also why we have this very interesting mix of religious and architectural styles. Now we're going to take a break and then we'll listen to the final part of the article. Like its architecture, Andalusia's culture draws on a lively mix of influences that have given the region a fully packed calendar of festivals and fairs. There are both religious festivals like Holy Week and newer traditions that provide a party-like atmosphere. The region is also known for flamenco, a passionate art form that combines music, song, and dance, which is often performed during special celebrations.
"第三部分来看到片语 draw on 或是 upon 加名词，意思是利用点点点或是凭借点点点。例如 In researching this book, the author drew on a large network of professionals living abroad. 为进行这本书的研究工作，这位作者动用一大群住在国外的专家。或是 The company draws upon its experienced sales team to succeed. 那家公司凭借着自家经验丰富的业务团队而成功。最后是 passionate， 它是形容词，指的是热烈的、热情的或是狂热的。例如Rob started a book club at school because he is passionate about reading. Rob 在学校创办了一个读书社，因为他热衷于阅读。又或者说 When it comes to classical music, Joe is very passionate. 提到古典音乐时 Joe 就会充满热切。
Okay, welcome back. Like its architecture, Andalusia's culture draws on a lively mix of influences that have given the region a fully packed calendar of festivals and fairs. Okay, so the culture is very lively and there are so many different influences. We have Christian influences and Islamic influences. Okay, so they have a lot of things going on during the year.
Yes, indeed. There are both religious festivals like Holy Week and newer traditions that provide a party-like atmosphere. So some of these festivals date back to when Catholicism was very, very important in Spain, 100 years ago and beyond that. And newer traditions, something that's just a little bit more fun, a little bit more for the tourists and has less of a religious meaning to it. And the region is also known for flamenco, a passionate art form that combines music, song, and dance. People are stamping their feet, they're clapping their hands really fast. The women are passionate, the men are even more passionate, and there's a guy playing guitar so fast you can't see his fingers fly. So that is flamenco. A lot of people enjoy that. I actually know a lot of Taiwanese ladies who love to learn flamenco dance, and it's passionate. It's full of passion, it's full of heart, it's full of enthusiasm, a little bit of sexiness thrown in there too. So it's a passionate art form, kind of like tango from Argentina. I think flamenco influenced tango probably. And it's often performed during special celebrations. So bring your dancing shoes, prepare to sweat a little bit because flamenco is a very fast form of music. You'll see me clapping on the side. I don't think I'll be stamping my feet because I'll probably hurt my knees. But yes, it's absolutely something you would definitely want to check out because this is where it comes from. And it's a culture that is appreciated all around the world. And we appreciate you guys for listening to us. We're going to have more from Andalusia tomorrow, so we'll see you or hear you or talk to you then. But first, let's go over to our Chinese teacher and meet Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始提到，安达鲁西亚是位于西班牙南部海岸风景如画的地区。那文中它用到 picturesque 来形容风景如画的，有自然美景的。这边我们要来介绍它的字尾 esque。那这是一个形容词字尾，用来指出风格、相似处或者是某种特色，表达说以什么什么方式的，或者是像什么什么的。那在 picturesque 这个字当中， picture 我们知道是图画，那么字尾 esque 表示什么什么似的，所以图画似的我们就可以知道 picturesque 它可以用来描述是如画一般的优美的。好，那顺便补充几个有相同字尾的单字。第一个是 statuesque， 它就是有 statue 雕像再加上字尾 esque 去表达什么什么似的，所以字面意思就是如雕像一般的，而这个字呢，它可以用来描述如雕像般庄严而优雅的，或者是体态是高挑优美的。第二个补充的是 Japanesque， 它是由 Japan 日本再加上字尾 esque 去表达什么什么风格的，所以合在一起 Japanesque 就是指日本式的日本风格的。好，那我们接着读到课文第二部分的第二句，它有提到这个有2个被认为是必访景点的联合国教科文组织世界遗产地。那这边它就是用到 be considered 加上名词去表达被认为是什么什么。那在下一句也有提到说，有一座绵延在山顶的宫殿建筑群被视为是什么什么，这边则是用到 be regarded as 去表达被认为是怎么样怎么样。好，那这2个都是用到被动用法，我们来整理一下它们的相关用法哦。首先用动词 consider 去表达认为把什么什么视为的时候，主动用法是 consider 某人或某事物to be 再加名词或形容词 to be 可以省略。那被动用法就是某人或某事物 be considered to be 再加名词或形容词，那一样 to be 可以省略。例如 He has always considered himself to be lucky， 或者是 He has always considered himself lucky， 他一直都认为自己很幸运。好，那另外 think of或是 see 或是 view 或是 regard 也可以表达认为视为，那他们主动用法会是 think of see 或是 view 或是 regard 加上某人或某事物 as 再加上名词或形容词。那被动用法就是某人或某事物 be viewed as be seen as be regarded as, be thought of as 再加名词或形容词。例如 Nick is seen as the best player on his team. Nick 被认为是他队上最厉害的球员。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Architecture. Modern architecture continues to make use of bold designs in the creation of new structures. Landscape. My grandparents' farm is surrounded by a beautiful landscape of grassy hills. Complicated. Bill found the instructions for the science experiment quite complicated. Destination. Hawaii is a popular vacation destination thanks to its lovely beaches and rich culture. Islamic. Islamic culture has significantly influenced various aspects of art, science, and literature throughout history. Magnificent. With its towering wall and detailed stone carvings, the historic castle was truly magnificent. Courtyard. The old man often spends his afternoons sitting in the courtyard, reading his favorite books. Passionate. Vera is a passionate supporter of our city's soccer club.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Kiki.
See you next time.